Hello there, good morning and welcome to this, the WP Builds weekly newsletter. This is number 60 and it covers the WordPress weekly news for the week commencing the 22nd of April 2019 and it was published on the 29th of April 2019. My name's Nathan Wrigley from pictureandword.co.uk, a small web development agency based in the north of England. And a couple of things before we begin, if you wouldn't mind going over and following a few links for me. They're all about getting you involved in the WP Builds community. The first one is wpbuilds.com/subscribe. A couple of forms on there for two different types of newsletters. One to alert you to the content that we put out, and one to alert you to whether or not there's a new WordPress deal. I write a very short, pithy email with just some plain text and where you can find the deal, and I write them as soon as I get the information. The other options are things like signing up to us on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Join our Facebook group, nearly 2,000 members there now talking about WordPress things. And we've also got updates for everything that we do on YouTube and Slack and Facebook Messenger and so on. Okay, the next one is /deals, and that's just a whole heap of WordPress deals. I've been very lucky in that quite a few plugin developers and so on have reached out and offered us a proportion off their products. So 30% off this, 30% off that, 50% off this, and so on. Anyway, go and have a look if you're in the market for a new plugin. Go and check out that page because you might find that there's something worth having on there. /contribute if you'd like to join me, make a short podcast episode about something that you've done that you are very, very proud of. And lastly, /advertise if you would like to advertise on the WP Builds podcast or newsletter. We'd be most grateful because it certainly helps keep the lights on. Speaking of which, the WP Builds newsletter is brought to you today by Kinsta. Are you tired of unreliable or slow hosting? If so, check out Kinsta, who takes managed WordPress hosting to the next level. Powered by the Google Cloud Platform, all their plans include PHP 7, SSH and 24/7 expert support. Migrate today for free at kinsta.com. And as I said, we really do thank Kinsta for their support. It really does help enable me to do this podcast each and every week. Right, let's get stuck into the news, shall we? Okay, the first couple of items come under the banner of WordPress Core. The first item is a longer version of the second item. It comes on the WP Tavern website and it's entitled WordPress 5.2 pushed back to May the 7th. Release candidate 1 now available for testing. Just to say that if you do want to test out release candidates of WordPress, don't deploy them on production websites. Just install them on a private server somewhere for your own testing. But initially, WordPress 5.2 was mooted for the 30th of April. That has been pushed back 1 week. Now it's going to be the 7th of May, and that was due to a few open tickets which were still not solved. The upcoming release brings quite a few improvements to the block editor, as well as the new admin interface for site health. This looks quite interesting. They've actually got a screenshot on the WP Tavern page, and it just shows you some of the options. So, for example, it says things like, okay, under the banner of security, you've got a few plugins here which haven't been updated for a while. You've got 15 active plugins. You've got one inactive plugin. Maybe that's something that you need to deal with. It points out quite helpfully, look, if you've got inactive plugins that aren't doing anything, why not uninstall them? So it kind of feels to me like WordPress is taking on the role of some of the security plugins that alert you and say, look, there's a couple of outdated plugins, go in and update them. So I think that's all for the good, and it's going to be in Core in a week or so. We've also got the fatal error recovery mode that's going to be included, and hopefully this will tell you if there's a fatal error, but also point out which plugin is causing the white screen of death and kind of disable it so you don't have any problems with it. So yeah, it looks like a nice release, a bit of a minor release really, but with a few nice features. As I said, the second link in the show notes is the WordPress.org version of it. It's a little bit shorter, so if you don't want to read all of the detail on the WP Tavern website, go and check out the second link instead. Oh, I've just discovered that there's a third item under the WordPress Core section, so I shall read that. I thought there was only two, but there's actually three. This one is to say that WordPress 5.2 will add 13 new dash icons to the library. Now, if you've ever used the WP admin interface, which I presume most of you have done, you'll notice that there's icons running along the top and running down the left-hand side. These are called dash icons, and the library has been updated so that it's using a file format called the Web Open Font Format version 2 as opposed to version 1, and we've got a whole bunch of new icons which you can find by clicking the link on the WP Tavern article, which I'm linking to. And they're things like, there seems to be like a dog, there's a birthday cake, there's some candles, balloons, there's a bee, there's like number 1, 2, 3 bullet points, a paragraph icon, planets, all sorts of things like an Instagram icon, email options, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, basically just some nice new dash icons to go on your WordPress website. Right, the next two items come under the banner of community. Now, the first one isn't really a fresh piece of content. What it is, it's a YouTube video, which I just think is really useful. It came out in, I believe, September last year, and it's from Brighton SEO conference. And it is Rand Fishkin, who I believe used to work for Moz, I don't think he does anymore, espousing his ideas on the future of SEO. And he goes into great detail about how Google is kind of repurposing the search links. And he spends a great deal of time talking about how it works on desktop and how it works on mobile, and how the click rates have changed over time, and how Google is now trying to serve up answers instead of websites. And this, of course, is directly influencing the way that you're going to be building your websites and the purpose that you're going to have. So, for example, if you're searching for a flight, no longer are you taken to links for the websites of people selling flights. Google tries to show you how to book the flight through its own platform. The same thing for all sorts of other things like shopping. It tries to push those things at you. And it's just really interesting. Click-through rates appear to be down, especially on mobile, but Google kind of taking over the space a little bit and making it more difficult to get people from the search pages over onto your website. So certainly something worth thinking about. The second article under the banner of community is over on the WP Tavern website. It's called Laraberg. A Guttenberg implementation for Laravel is now in beta. That kind of sums it up, really. We have a Laravel version of Guttenberg, and you can go and download it. And the idea, I suppose, is that over time we get a platform agnostic version of Guttenberg, something that could be ported to, for example, Drupal or Joomla. I believe that the Drupal version of Guttenberg is using JavaScript, but it would seem that various people are wedded inextricably to the Laravel framework for building their projects. And so if that's you, if Laravel is something that you're really keen on, and you also are keen on Guttenberg, then this is worth checking out over on the WP Tavern website. Okie dokie, next two items are under the banner of security. Now, for a long time, I've been telling people that really there's very little benefit in trying to do things like hide your WordPress version number from visitors by using plugins that do this. And iThemes have apparently removed this option from their security plugin, basically because it's absolutely pointless. It gives people a false sense of security. It doesn't really remove any vulnerabilities, and security patches are backported. So this little article on iThemes, it starts off explaining why this is pointless, and then it goes on to be a bit of a promo piece for iThemes security. But essentially, they're saying do other things instead, use more secure passwords, limit the number of login attempts, and so on and so forth. So if a client ever comes to you and says, I'd like to hide the WordPress version number because I've heard that this is good for security, you can faithfully point them to this article and say, well, perhaps not. It's not really worth doing. Okay, the next piece is on the Securi.net website entitled Plugins Added to Malicious Campaign, and really it's a very brief article indeed. We now have a couple of vulnerabilities in the Download WP Inventory Manager plugin and the WooCommerce user email verification, and this looks like a wider wider problem. Looks like bad actors are adding these to the same vulnerabilities that they've had for a while. So essentially, if you've got either of those two plugins on any of your websites or your client websites, make sure that you are patched or that you've got a firewall rule that will prevent that from doing its mischief. Okay, some plugin news now. 4 pieces under the banner of plugin. WooCommerce 3.6 has now rolled along, and on the WooCommerce.com website we've got an article entitled Boost Your Store's Performance and Pages with WooCommerce 3.6. 3.5 I think came around in about October last year, and since then they've been working hard on 2 specific features. They wanted to have performance improvements and they wanted WooCommerce product blocks for the new editor, and that is basically what you're getting if you update. This article shows you what the new product blocks are. There's the featured products, individual hand-picked products, bestsellers / top rated, newest products, sale products, and products with specific attributes or terms. And also we have a new way of making your WooCommerce websites more performant, because they've decided to restructure the way that the data is saved in the database. And so, for example, you're able to access things more quickly because it uses a less costly database join process. So that's good. I'm not sure, because I don't really use WooCommerce too much, whether or not this has caused any backwards compatibility. They claim on the website that it absolutely doesn't. It should be absolutely 100% back portable. And there's more. They've got a new admin dashboard area as well, so you can see your statistics, and it all looks rather nice and very professional indeed. Okay, number 2 on the plugin section is all about WooPack. This is the guys over at PowerPack for Beaver Builder. They've got a couple of things that they've added to their WooCommerce offering. The first one is WooCommerce Mini Cart module, and it adds an option in your menu, usually at the top. So if you add something to the cart, it updates, and if you add one thing, it has a little image of a 1, and if you add 3 more things, it goes up to 4, and then when you click on that, it will show you your cart. And we've seen this 1,000 times before, but it's now part of WooPack and PowerPack for Beaver Builder. And they've also got a WooCommerce off canvas cart module, so you can add things to your cart and that little number increases, and then when you click on it, instead of it being a kind of drop down, a whole menu item from the right hand side of the page swoops in, and it looks really nice actually, and you can go to the checkout from there and so on. It's just 2 ways of making your cart easy for your customers. And the next one is all about BuddyPress. I'm not going to go into the list, but essentially BuddyPress, if you're using it, has now rolled over to 4.3.0, and this is all about security and maintenance. Essentially, the security items seem to be the most important. There's about half a dozen privilege escalation vulnerabilities which were fixed, a couple of XSS vulnerabilities, and so on, and they're all very specific. But if you're using BuddyPress, this article might be for you. And we're on now 4.3.0. Okay, and the last one is all about WPMU Dev's Branda plugin. Nice new features added. They updated it about a month ago with a complete overhaul, but since then they've added a couple of features in the last month. So you can now make it so that people signing up to your website, you give them a specific link and it therefore applies a specific user role to them. So for example, you give them a link and it makes them an editor when they've joined, or you give them a link and it makes them into a subscriber or whatever. You've also got loads of options for importing exported branding settings, so you can configure that you want the admin bar and the dashboard feeds and so on and so forth to be the same as the one that was exported from another site. And they've also made it possible to hijack the PHP mail function so that you can send from an SMTP server of your choice, including a whole bunch of third-party add-ons, MailChimp and all of that kind of thing. And you can hide their own branding of their superheroes if you like as well. So if you use WPMU Dev, that's quite a nice update. On WP Builds over the last week, we had Amir Helzer on. We've had him on a couple of times before talking about Toolset, but this time he was talking about WPML, which is the translation plugin that they have. He explains how it all works, how you can use it, and how you can integrate with third-party providers to get your transcriptions done. I'm not a heavy user of a multilingual plugin because most of my sites are done in England for English-speaking people, but if this is a requirement and you are building websites, I don't know, for example, if you're in Canada and you have a requirement for French and English, then this is certainly a plugin worth looking at, and Amir explains it very, very well indeed. And that's it for the WordPress news. Got 3 items today about non-WordPressy stuff. Just a lovely one. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but you know, there's a new Avengers movie out and it involves a character called Thanos, and in the previous movies he's clicked his fingers and terrible things have happened to half the population. Well, if you now search on Google the word Thanos, a picture appears next to the word Thanos of a glove, the glove that he wears in the film, and if you click on that glove, interesting things happen to half of all the search results, shall we say. So stop this podcast now, go and search on Google the word Thanos and then click on the golden glove and see what happens. It's quite entertaining. This next one is on the searchenginejournal.com website, and it says that 10% of Twitter users are creating 80% of the tweets. It's something I've suspected for a long time, but didn't really have any data about it. We all know, don't we, that the majority of stuff that comes across your feed is people who are habitual about their use of things like Facebook and Twitter, but an 80% to 10% ratio surprises even me. Apparently, that 10% is more likely to be women, and it also goes into statistics about what kind of level of education those people are likely to have and what their overall average income is likely to be. And obviously, if Twitter is a great big tool that you're using for promoting your content, then knowing this kind of information could be useful. And the very last piece that we've got today is again over on the searchenginejournal.com website. And it says 72% of people have used voice search through a digital assistant in 2019. 72% of people have used some kind of Amazon Alexa or Google Home or the HomePod by Apple. And it's really interesting what they're doing with it. 72% of people have used it for sort of general searching. 35% have used a smart home speaker. So I'm presuming that the 72% involves the speakers and a phone. But it's interesting what they're looking for. 68% of people are just looking for quick facts. 65 are looking for directions to places. 52 are looking for a product or service. 44% say that they've conducted additional searches after the original search. And 31% of people say that they use it to compare products and services. Many of those things I didn't even know that they could do. And it also says that in the years to come, they're expecting that these numbers are just going to go up and up to the point where it will become the norm. And goodness only knows how we manage our websites in an era where search is done through voice. Okay, that's it for the WordPress Weekly News this week. I really, really hope that you found something of value in it. If so, please reach out, leave some comments on Facebook or on our website. That would be most grateful. And if you feel like giving us a 5-star review on iTunes, I'd be really grateful about that as well. The WP Builds newsletter was brought to you today by Kinsta. Kinsta takes managed WordPress hosting to the next level. Powered by the Google Cloud Platform, your site is secured like Fort Knox and runs on speed obsessive architecture. You get access to the latest software and developer tools such as PHP 7, SSH and staging environments. And the best part, their expert team of WordPress engineers are available 24/7 if you need help. You can migrate today for free at kinsta.com. Okay, hopefully we'll see you on Thursday for the podcast. If not, maybe we'll see you on Monday for the next WP Builds newsletter. Bye-bye for now.